So right now I'm going to introduce a presentation, The Future of Hollywood with NFTs and DeFi, presented by Alexander Emertai, the producer of Antara.
Do you have the link for the video?
You want the video first?
If it's as long as it's ready. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, we have the video whenever you're ready. This is your slides.
Okay. So we did Arabian Camels last year. I'm not sure if anybody's heard of Arabian Camels. And since we did Arabian Camels just after Board 8, we did David Bowie NFTs for the Bowie estate, then Freddie Mercury, then the Antara movie NFT, which is my pride and joy, and we've just landed DC Comics as well, which is the full physical collection of DC Comics from 1934 right up until 2014. It's 42,000 comics, every one that's ever been published. And that's been insured by Sotheby's and verified by Sotheby's. It took 2 years. And we're doing that because we're all about sort of asset-backed NFTs or IP-backed NFTs. But the reason why we're in Cannes is because we're doing this movie, which we've been offered distribution for 1,500 screens in North America, $15 to $20 million P&A. It's a 6th century swords and sandals epic like Troy Gladiator, and I'll let the video. If we can we put the video on?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll just tell you a little bit about it. But long story short, we're financing a lot of this with NFTs. I come from an equities background, and I see the NFT space becoming like a multi-dimensional stock market. And we'll let this one play first, and then I'll yeah. I don't know if you can turn the lights on, I'm not sure.
Troy, Gladiator, 300, Lawrence of Arabia, Hercules, all of these epics have been told in cinema, except for the story of Antara. This film has everything of a classic and timeless epic. It's got action, it's got love, suspense, controversy, slavery, freedom. It hits every single note of a timeless and classical epic. Antara is a period adventure on the life of the legendary warrior and poet Antara It tells the story of a man who's possessed with military prowess, and he's a prodigy on the battlefield, but at the same time he's this mystic, sagacious, wise poet of ancient Arabia in the 5th century. He was a black slave, he was athletic, he was nimble, he was pliant, like Achilles, like Alexander the Great. He's a larger-than-life character. Respected, he's feared, he's loved, he's hated, and he's revered. This film is directed by Tarsem Singh. Tarsem has an incredible gift to make large stories and make them very personal and character-driven. He's one of the most powerful visionaries in Hollywood. At the centre of the story is the story of a colourful but a belligerent desert romance. The tale of Antara is full of the most colourful characters. You've got Shaddad, who's an exuberant chieftain and a knight, and he's Antara's father, but he never acknowledges Antara as a son because he's born to a slave woman. You've got Zabiba, who was a captive princess, but although she's a captive, she's elegant, she's gracious, she's articulate, and she's a strong woman of heart. She's a tough woman. You've got Malik, who's the king in the story. Malik is the protagonist of sorts because he is the personification of everything Antara is against. We've got Abla, who is the daughter of Malik, and Abla and Antara are in love. And they have an unexplainable chemistry, a very innocent but powerful love. Because she's a noble and the daughter of the king, it's just impossible for she and Antara to ever be married. We've got Bistan, who was one of the greatest warriors of the era. he is the enemy of Antara, but they have this deep respect and admiration for each other. You've got Aziz, who is the most renowned warrior in all of Arabia, and he has been called upon to come and fight against Antara. Musa is a fantastic character, and he is Antara's mentor. He's his voice of reason. The reason why this film has the potential to be one of the greatest classics in all history is because it's actually a real story. Antara lived and died in Saudi Arabia 2 years before Islam, just before Islam came. The look and feel of this film is very cinematic. It's going to be shot in Neom, Saudi Arabia. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site which has one of the most striking deserts on planet Earth. The film has got some amazing set pieces and striking visuals. We've got intense horse races in the desert, we've got opulent palaces, we've got dramatic battle scenes on horseback, camels, a style of weaponry that's not really been seen in cinema yet. The audience will be taken on a fun, dramatic, epic journey on the edge of their seats. It has the potential to be one of the greatest epics in Hollywood history.
Antara. This is it was a true story. We put this together with the professors of Arabic literature from Oxford, Cambridge, Yale, SOAS, and yeah, I think we haven't had a good choice since a good epic since Troy and Gladiator. So what we've done is with the Antara movie NFT, we split this up into we split up the IP basically. So whoever owns the NFT owns part of the movie, and the whole idea is that this is the first major Hollywood movie in history financed by NFTs. To do things a little bit differently, because of how saturated the NFT space is we split up some for the public, some for OTC, some for institutionals, VCs and DAOs, so they can buy in bulk, because it's good for the community to know that you've got VC institutional backing, and it's good for the VC and institutionals to know that you've got a good community. So there's about 15,000 in the Discord we dropped last year, so they've been they're big Antara fans, you know. And we've even gone as far as in Knightsbridge in London, we've got an art gallery who's selling them as physical. So the idea is that you can have a big, nice glass, chic, framed NFT that you can pay in crypto or in fiat, and that's your ownership of you know, an NFT, like of a movie, part of history, you know. And because people own the IP, we put them in the firing line for box office and streaming revenues. So that can go on for 3 to 5 years. So so it's good to know that we've got a distribution offer. And yeah, so we have different platforms. Some are taking 500, some are taking 100 here and there. We've had to split it up. So we've been in Cannes this week. We're closing the final sort of 6 million on this. So remember, in the movie business we have tax credits, which is fantastic. We've got 40% covered from the Ministry of Culture in Saudi Arabia, and this is what we gave to the VCs. We pitched Jack Ma's, the guy who funded Alibaba. He's the Chinese big investor, and we just explained to him. I said the difference between us and Bored Apes got backing, and because we dropped just after the Bored Apes, but we didn't have that sort of fiery start. So the original collection, just to distinguish between Arabian Camels and the Antara movie NFT, we dropped last year, did pretty well, and we got off to a good start. We're on OpenSea, Rarible, LuxRare, we're on Binance. For this collection, we've got a play-to-earn game that we've paid for, which is coming out with the token launch in Q3. So whoever owns one of those camels, that camel is needed to play the game. If you're a gamer, you play the game to earn. If you're not a gamer, you can lease out your camel to other people to play, and you split the earnings from them with them. And yeah, we're basically seeking about 10 million from VCs who can leverage off what we're doing. Some of these people can do this as sponsorship, as promotion. There's lots of sort of leverage which we can go into another time. And yeah, this is sort of the utility. So people who own the Antara movie NFT, some of them can get a part in the movie, like an acting role in the movie. Some of them get producer credits. Some of them get to come on set with us in the desert. Not a lot, obviously, because that's going to just eat too much into the budget. We have to put the production quality and everything like that first. And again, with this, I mean, imagine George Lucas, as I said earlier on, imagine George Lucas did this with Star Wars. when he, you know what I mean? Because it's merchandise, toys, licensing, all the sort of derivatives that can come from an IP like this. And the translation of the Antara story, it's 5,300 pages. Fights against the Persians, fights against, goes to Africa, fights against the Byzantines, and then there's intertribal warfare, so there's a huge saga. He's like the Alexander the Great of the Middle East. That's just explaining what we saw in the movie. There's a video we did there, which I'm not going to play now, but that was with the professors from Cambridge who helped put this together. We used this image as well because it's the Arabian Camel's brand. The only distinguishing factor is that Antara Hollywood clapper on the top right. So if the NFT has that, that allows you to effectively claim an IP ownership certificate. And that's what allows you to burn the value of it when it comes to streaming revenues. But this goes on to live a life of its own in the secondary market with its own, like for example, a Bored Ape is what? 100 ETH, floor price? 200k, whatever, 300k, whatever ETH is. And that, what gives it that value? You know what I mean? So we want this to be able to have a life of its own in art galleries, sold in physical or in fiat, sold in fiat or in crypto. And to have that collected, like even in hotels, like there's a separate branding strategy we have with that. But whoever owns that owns like the part of the first movie. That's what we're doing basically with art galleries. So when people buy the unrevealed one, they get that, and then after like 2 months when we do the reveal, they get it shipped to their house like that. And the whole idea is some collectors might buy a group of 9 and things like that. So we've got Bel Air Fine Art here, just beside the Fairmont. They're taking some as well, and we're just going to go on the roadshow with art galleries around the world to. So the whole idea is like, you have that in your wall and you're like, oh yeah, that movie that was done, the paradigm shift in Hollywood, when that whole thing happened basically. So that's sort of iconic sort of time. That's just about me. And then yeah, we've got obviously the merch and all sorts of stuff we're doing, but it's a separate strategy for kids and teenagers to get them into the space as well. And kids love it, like our community, the kids like, I like the pink one, I like the black one or whatever. So that's what we've been doing in Cannes, and we've been closing investors to come on board, not just to own the NFTs, but to see how they can leverage off it as a corporate, as an institution, because we have to make NFTs good for the institutional space. It's not going to be, and these guys are not going to be on Discord saying dope this, fire that. You know what I mean? It's going to be, they need a landing space for the corporates, and that's what we're trying to do with this. So. If there's any questions, but that's in essence what we're doing. And we've got 40% of the budget covered from the Ministry of Culture. Just about the team, Tarson was the director. He did Immortals in 2011, if you remember. It did like 260 million box office, phenomenal director. And then Mark Fusco did that video. He's Steven Spielberg's right-hand man for about 15 years, phenomenal editor. And then we've got Stuart Sutherland, who just finished Gerard Butler's movie in Saudi Arabia like 6 weeks ago, Kandahar, $50 million movie. And Tarek Ben Ammar has been phenomenal help. He just financed House of Gucci. He's the head of the Red Sea Film Festival. He's the best mix of a Middle Eastern producer and Hollywood. He just took over Harvey Weinstein's library, and he was like the advisor to the Ministry of Culture. So strategically, so I've put together the best, like even the choreographer from Troy, for the fight scenes in this, we put him in there. So if there was anything better I could do for this production or arrange it, I'd do it. So all that's left now is just closing 6 million, and we're off to the desert to shoot.
So I'm just curious, you buy the NFT and you're getting a share of the box office.
I don't use the word shares, but
that's actually what I because the securities lawyer just said how it was a really bad idea that they're offering like a very fractional. The Josh over there mentioned that giving 2 cents away as streaming shares was opening up a bag of worms you probably didn't want to open. Do you guys have something in place for that, or is this planned for the?
Yeah. So we all know why people buy NFTs.
Yeah.
And that's just a universal thing we all know. And they all plan to make money. Let's just be call a spade a spade. And we went down the route of doing this with crypto, and there's just too much regulatory red tape all over the world, different jurisdictions, all have different opinions. But if we're selling art, people doing NFT drops where they're making 20 million, 40 million, 70 million, and they put that in their pocket, they buy a yacht, they go to Monaco and do whatever, good for them, it's fine. But with $20 million, we were saying earlier on, we can build cities, you can have huge humanitarian projects. I thought, okay, we can really flip the script in Hollywood completely changed the expectations of how films are produced. And the best thing, which I forgot to mention, is the yield farming element. So while people own the NFTs, they do yield farming while the production is taking place, between 6 to 9 months, whatever. And depending on the rarity of the NFT, they get between 20% to 80% APR. The low rarity get the 20%, and then the highest ones get the highest. Why is that huge? Is because imagine a situation where a Hollywood studio could do a $100 million production and get even 20% of their money back, or 50% by the time the movie's waiting. What a risk mitigating factor. It's epic. So now it's not just about like box office and streaming revenues. DeFi can take some of the weight. You know what I mean? As in, the full scale of evolution for an NFT is when you merge it with DeFi and an industry. So putting all that together. So you get the NFT, which is the picture. When it comes to box office time, you qualify for an IP ownership certificate. Yeah? Okay. Because you own that, we put you in the firing line for box office and streaming revenues. The law is actually on your side, because if somebody needs to pay for a license to display the film, they need to pay that IP holder. If you're an IP holder, or I'm an IP holder, they'll pay me, and they'll pay you. You know what I mean? So we're putting you in the firing line rather than, here's a share. There's no guarantees, this is not a security, this is not an investment. We have all the disclaimers, but we have to just be calling a spade a spade. We want value for NFTs. We want utility, and people can contribute to the creativity. They can contribute on script, they can contribute on, costume opinions. They can contribute in all different ways where they qualify for royalties. If they work in the production, let them have it. So there's loads of ways to, as I said, if there was anything else I could do in this production, I'd do it. And now we're just working with DAOs, VCs, institutionals. I mean, it might be one institutional who says, okay, $6 million, let's go to produce. Or it could be 10, it could be 100. So we've got to just go through the motions, Any other? Yes.
Are you looking at the gaming side? Or are you looking at the esports side?
Yeah. So we've already paid for the play to earn game. Called Raiders in the World. It's a Clash of the Clans style game.
Yeah.
We paid for that about 4 weeks ago.
I was thinking outside of that, because for example, with all the Saudi connections, the Saudi gaming group.
Yeah.
They just spent $1.5 billion to buy ESL and face it.
Okay, I didn't know that.
One of the biggest purchases in the history of gaming. And my background game, I did some work on Saudi for PlayStation, actually F1.
Cool.
You've also got a new F1 race in Saudi, which is not going anywhere for a long time.
Well,
so
we actually
free to play. I'm just gonna say, just play to earn stuff is still tiny. If you were gonna approach Saudi, right?
We
do a lot of work with the West as well. Do a free to play game on mobile, get backing from them, turn it into esports, and monster interest.
Yeah, they're really proactive on both the movie side. Like they gave $400 million to William Morris, but they gave it back because of the whole situation. But it now they're kind of creeping back in, and so for that and Neom, where we're shooting, it's like a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but they're doing the $500 billion city. I admire their ambition of what they're doing there, and they plan to be like the most technologically advanced city on planet Earth. So the play to earn game is there, and Antara, remember, is their Alexander the Great. It's their Romeo and Juliet. He's their Shakespeare. He was a black slave who won his freedom, but he became the apex of our Arabic language. And so anybody who lives from Morocco to all of the Gulf, they grew up with this story. Like I met Princess Dana here last year in Anjuna, and I was introduced as the producer of Antara, and she said, "Oh my goodness, my two parrots growing up, one was called Anta, and one was called Abla." So it's just a part of their life. So, but to be honest, I found them a lot more. They display that they're doing things rather than doing things. In some cases, we've been through. Like Prince Badr knows about it. A lot of the princes know about it. They said, "Oh, that's amazing, it's fantastic," but that's not how you get on. But all the collectors who bought this, Americans, Europeans, they appreciate the quintessential element of a culture rather than. I think sometimes I find them more interested in being like the next Vegas and bells and whistles, But yeah, we're just going through the motions, and if we click with some of them, great. And if there's a chance to collaborate, and on that front, by all means. But any other questions or curiosities?
Yeah, well, first it was cool to see our movie. We made Hercules, so it's nice to see
Nice.
see our movie in your presentation.
Very cool.
But to my understanding, with the NFT sales, you're going to be giving a part of the revenue to NFT holders. Is that correct?
Well, it's IP ownership we're giving to put them in the firing line, if that makes sense.
So they're going to own the IP, but do they make royalties off of the movie?
Well, if they own the IP, they have to be paid. If the IP holders are being paid, they have to be paid.
Right. So how are you imagining that you'll be distributing that? I mean, obviously the distributor is never going to use a blockchain.
We have a third-party payments company who's partnered with just for. Pardon?
Like a Kama? You mean?
They're not a Kama. They're like a crypto payment processing company who've partnered with. They're called Vision, and they're set up to do all of that. And some things are still we're still in the process of bolting on more. And some people ask, what about this, what about that? And we say we haven't defined it because number one, it's not a security, and we're selling NFTs at the end of the day. And people say, the utility is so good that people are treating it as an investment, and that's a problem, I guess, in one way. But the utility is really well thought out. I've been through enough NFT projects, from Camels to Bowie to Mercury and advising on other projects, to sort of see how you need to take the meat and throw the bones, if you know what I mean. And just bring a bit of the equity play into it in terms of how things are managed, and try and make it a little bit more institutional friendly, I guess. When I say institutional, I mean like just big corporates to just, So yeah, we're going through the motions.
Cool. Congrats.
Thank you. Hard work. I don't know if anyone's run their own NFT projects, but different time zones and the amount of work that goes in it, I promise you it's a story in itself.
I've done
40 NFT projects, and you're still with us.
I funded the space mission, the Doge Moon mission.
Oh, cool. There you go. But it's it's heavy on, huh? Heavy on.
Oh, it's
Like-
non-stop work.
You can't do it for more than a couple of years. You'll end up in hospital if you do it
Yeah.
more than that. Which is honestly, whatever investment banking was back in the Gordon Gekko days, just multiply that by 50.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a year and a half, and I'm only 20.
That's actually old for the industry.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, if there's no other questions anyway, but yeah, I think I've covered it as much as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.